Hello and what is going on today, guys? Tomcat here, and we are back today for a couple of different things. One, we're going to be showing you guys a brand new crater map in MudRunner, and two, we're going to be talking about some SnowRunner details regarding damage. Now, an employee at Focus recently said on Discord that they were making some updates and upgrades to the damage system involving engines and wheels and some various other points of damage in the game. So, what could that possibly mean? Well, there's a lot that it could possibly mean. One thing that it could possibly mean is mods could be trickier to make function properly. Now, when I say mods could be trickier to make function properly, I mean that in the sense of it could be a little bit more stuff to code. And that's good and bad, because on one hand, it kind of makes it so that there could be more that they could, like more detail that someone could put into their mod. However, it could also mean that there's a little bit more complication in creating a mod. Now, does the toolbox not appear? Apparently, oh, I see. So it's like a little toolbox back by the tailgate. Now, let's see if we can. I don't think this truck has any loads available for it. No, it doesn't. Now, I did bring along another truck, that had, you know, it's like a commercial truck with a big lift and big tires and stuff like that. So if we do end up wanting to try out some log routes on this map, we can. But right now, I just kind of want to explore the map and use the map as a bit of a backdrop, and in order to talk about some of my personal theories around this damage idea. So, in terms of damage, I mean, what we have right now is a fairly limited damage system where basically you have a damage bar that, you know, on a stock truck in the stock game, basically the way that bar works is you hit things, you know, the damage meter goes up. You run over rocks or loose rocks too fast, the damage meter goes up. So, fairly simple damage system, right? Fairly simple, like when the damage gets to a certain level, your truck will start to backfire, your truck will start to shoot flames, and eventually, if you fill it up all the way, the truck will basically die. The truck will stop running, and the engine will die out. We know this. These are all things that, like, we've known from the very first iteration of spin tires way back in the day. The damage system really hasn't changed all that much. Now, they've said that there will be damage elements specific to the engine and the wheels. Now, I want to talk about the wheel damage first. Now, wheel damage, that could be all sorts of different aspects, right? Because a wheel is made up of, like, the actual rim itself and the tire. So, when he says wheel damage, that could mean, you know, tires that could pop, tires that could, you know, you could get a hole in a tire and it could pop. I don't know if... Oh, wow, that stuffs the tire perfectly, although we kind of messed it up there. Let's see if we can actually do it again and get... Well, the stump's pretty much done at this point. It's gotten knocked over. We'll do it on a different stump. It's actually a really cool map. I really like the idea of the terrain. I'm not sure that I want to log it, but in terms of, like, somewhere to come out and just kind of ride around and look at some really cool areas, I could definitely see it as a cool place because, like... You have these really cool notches that you can use as hill climbs, but more on that later, more on that in a different video. I could definitely see this map as somewhere where we could do some multiplayer stuff. So, back to the topic of damage, specifically wheel damage. So, if your tires are actually damageable to the point where they can, you know, rupture and pop and fracture and stuff like that, you have to wonder what that's going to mean for, you know, not only mods, but... You know, let's say you're driving around, you're logging, right? Let's say you're logging, you have like an 8-point load, you're out in the middle of nowhere, you do not have a rescue truck nearby, you're playing by yourself, and you get a flat, right? Let's say you get a flat by yourself out in the middle of nowhere, you're playing single player, right? You have nobody to come get you, and you get a flat tire. I mean, are you screwed? Or, you know, or are there going to be repair elements that go in line with specifically repairing tires? Because that, I mean, if you add a new damage element, you need to add a new repair element as well. Because even if, let's say, your truck doesn't have all that much damage and you pop a tire, is that going to mean you're going to be in a place where your truck is in perfect running order, but you have to get a repair truck out there specifically to repair that tire? I mean, I could definitely see it bringing the game into a more realistic light, but I think it would definitely be something to where if tires were poppable, I would want that to be something that would only happen in hardcore mode or like full simulation mode. Now, when they say more engine damage, that makes me wonder as well, are they talking about specific parts of the engine? Like, are we going to break, let's say, so let's use like diesel engine terms, for example. Like, are you going to lose an injector? Are you going to lose a lift pump or something like that? Is that going to be a part that you're going to have to come out and replace individually? Or is it going to be, you know, like something general like turbocharger system damaged, or like air intake system damaged, or intercooler system damaged? So that seems a little bit more in line with what I think they would probably do, because still, at the end of the day, you know, if your turbo, let's say your turbo goes out and you lose, you know, like 50% of your engine power or 75% of your engine power, because a lot of these big diesel engines rely on that turbo to move enough air into the engine to generate the power they need to generate. Otherwise, they're just going to overfuel and just going to sit there and just chug, basically. So at the end of the day, I'm not saying that naturally aspirated diesels aren't a thing. I'm just saying that naturally aspirated diesels don't really tend to be all that powerful. Now, I'm sure somebody in the comment section is going to, you know, is going to list off XYZ number of naturally aspirated diesel engines that are quote-unquote powerful. But at the end of the day, most light and medium and even heavy-duty diesel engines are turbocharged to some degree. So even you know, back in the day, they were supercharged. That's not really all that common anymore. But anyways, we're getting off on a different topic. So if more specific engine damage is to be a thing, that again makes me wonder, are we going to be dealing with things that are pretty general, like, you know, your intercooler system is damaged or your turbocharger is damaged and you're going to need to replace that one specific part before you continue on? Or is it going to be like something very simple, like engine is 50% damaged, you know, you've lost a certain amount of power, you're going to need to repair in order to continue on? And the more I simplify it down, the more I feel like the simplified version is what they'll end up going with. But at the end of the day, though, it does make me a little bit more hope. It just gives me a little bit of hope that they might do something a little bit more in depth. Because if they do something in depth to the point to where, oh, this would be a fun hill climb. I'm going to go down and then come back up. But it makes me wonder if they're going to do something a little bit more in depth, because I think it would be so cool to be out in the middle of the wilderness and, you know, start maybe having like a scenario where you're starting to have issues with your turbo and you start losing power due to the fact that you may have like gone a little bit too deep in the water, you know, maybe a little bit earlier when you drove through that river or drove through that creek and you submerged the intake or submerged the turbo or something, or like you busted an oil line or something like that. It just feels like specific features like that seem like they'd be a little bit too in-depth and might take a little bit too much time for them to figure out. But you have to remember that if they did, I mean, the hope behind it is that there are at least some specifics behind it that would make it, you know, that would make it feel a little bit more tense. You know, like if I drove, let's say I drove into the water here, and maybe I drove over a rock too fast and popped a tire, right? You may have to handle that in a semi-realistic way. Now, again, I would hope that these things were only prevalent in hardcore mode, because hardcore mode, people that play in hardcore mode are people that are going to want things like this anyway. I don't feel like people that play in casual mode are going to want these things to be, are going to want to have to shoulder these worries, because if you're a casual player, you're not going to want to be way out in the wilderness with a full load of lumber, you know, and have a flat tire, or have, like, you know, your intercooler piping come off or crack or break or something like that. So if they did go into that much depth and detail, I would want it to be restricted to hardcore mode, but I would still want it in the game nonetheless. And the fact that they're going more in depth on the customization this time would make it all that much more interesting to have a customization system that was intertwined with the damage system, because, you know, let's say you wanted to do, like, and I'm not saying they're going to have features like this, especially at launch, but let's say later on down the road, you know, let's say later on down the road that your parts get old and you're like, well, I could replace it with the same thing, like just a new part that's the same thing. Or, you know, I'm in the garage right now, I have the money, I could go for an upgraded turbo for more power. Now, I don't think they'll have anything like that at launch, obviously, but I do think that it would be really cool if later on down the road they did do something like that and intertwined the damage system with the customization system. And again, that would be something that would be more for a hardcore audience, but I do think that it would be so much fun to dive into that and really focus on the little details on what that system has to offer. And let me just say real quick that this map has some really cool areas. Like, I am super into this right now. Like, I think that we need more maps like this that really, honestly, aren't that tied to a trail network and are more along the lines of, hey, go where you want, do what you want, you know, maybe have some fun along the way, find some cool areas, maybe make it up some of the hills you attempt, maybe not make it up some of the hills you attempt, and you know, just have fun, explore, have a good time. This map actually reminds me a lot of Off-Road Outlaws for whatever reason. Like, this map feels like it would be right at home in Off-Road Outlaws more so than Mud Runner. And I don't know why that is. It's just kind of a weird thing that it makes me, like I said, it makes me feel like the map would be more at home in that game than this game. But maybe that's because it feels more laid out like an Off-Road Outlaws map than a Mud Runner map. And so I don't know, maybe the fact that we have a map in Mud Runner that feels like an Off-Road Outlaws map, maybe that's a good thing, because at the end of the day, you know, a lot of the Off-Road Outlaws maps are a lot of fun, and they're designed in a really cool way. So if you guys, I meant to shut off the engine, not get the toolkit out. But if you guys enjoyed this video, then make sure to let me know in the comment section below what you think about that damage system and the possibility of there being, well, not really, the confirmation of there being more wheel and tire damage, and what you speculate that will entail when SnowRunner comes out early next year. So if you all enjoyed, make sure to leave me a like, subscribe for more, and I will see you all next time. Talk to you guys later.